Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever felt completely trapped in a repetitive, painful cycle in your relationships, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're taking a really deep introspective dive into the psychology of Carl Jung to figure out the hidden mechanics behind breaking those patterns. We're going to explore love, letting go, and the profound inward journey of truly finding yourself. Let's be real for a second and think about a feeling that might be all too familiar. Have you ever poured your absolute heart out, literally changed who you are just to make someone stay? You give everything you have, and when they still leave, you're left staring at the ceiling wondering, am I still not good enough? That emotional exhaustion, it's incredibly real, and man, it hurts. And that brings us to the ultimate question, the one that probably haunts so many of us in the quiet hours of the night. Why do I keep choosing people who can't love me the way I deserve? It kind of feels like terrible luck, right? But Jungian psychology suggests it's actually something entirely different. It's an unconscious mechanism at play. Okay, let's really dive into this. Often what we label as love is actually emotional dependency. Basically, this is a subconscious wound seeking an anesthetic. You aren't necessarily looking for genuine affection. You're looking for a way to numb a pain you just haven't dared to face yet. You're searching for someone else to carry your wound for you. Notice the profound contrast here. Love born from need is anxious, it's controlling, and it's highly dependent on the other person's mood. It's exactly like building a gorgeous house, but putting it right on a foundation of sand. The second the other person pulls back, you crumble. On the flip side, love born from freedom comes from a place of peace, wholeness, and self-sufficiency. You want them, sure, but you absolutely don't need them to survive. Carl Jung hit the nail on the head with this one. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. If you don't understand your underlying wounds, you're just going to keep dating the exact same person, just with a different face and a different name. And you'll think it's just your destiny. All right, let's move into section 1, the mirror of projection. Jung had this fascinating idea that romantic encounters are almost never random. They actually act as powerful mirrors. Deep within our minds, we hold these idealized images, or archetypes. The anima is the unconscious feminine aspect within a man's psyche, representing things like tenderness and intuition. And the animus is the unconscious masculine aspect within a woman's psyche, representing reason and strength. When you meet someone who matches this invisible blueprint, you feel this massive, instant connection. But the trap here is that you're projecting a perfect internal image onto an ordinary, flawed human being. You don't actually love them, you love the projection. And when you're projecting from a place of unhealed wounds, it creates what we call the energy of lack. To put this into perspective, for someone with anxious attachment, a staggering 80% of their mental energy is constantly draining into imagined, catastrophic what-ifs, while only 20% is grounded in present reality. You are exhausted because you're fighting battles in your mind that don't even exist yet.
Which brings us to section 2, the path to individuation.
So how do we actually fix this cycle? Well, the answer isn't trying harder to change the other person. The answer is individuation. This is Jung's term for the lifelong process of becoming wholly yourself. And we're not just talking about modern independence, like living alone or paying your own bills. It's a deep psychological acceptance of your entire being. It means confronting the rejected shadow parts of yourself so you finally stop dragging those old wounds into new love. Okay, so what does this look like in real life? First, we have to start by pausing need-driven behaviors, like obsessively checking their status or texting just to get some quick reassurance. Next, practice intentional solitude. And I mean really practice it. Don't just numb the silence by scrolling on a screen. Sit in it and feel what comes up. Finally, you have to nurture your inner world. Care for your body, embrace your creativity, and build a foundation where you genuinely enjoy your own company. Now, let's talk about the roadblock we all hit. Section 3. The illusion of worry. As you start doing this inward work, you are absolutely going to run into the frantic need to control outcomes. Jung tells us that this worry stems directly from identifying way too closely with the persona, which is basically our social mask. It's fragile, it constantly seeks validation, and it is terrified of uncertainty. If you believe you literally are your job or your relationship, any threat to them feels like a threat to your very existence. But your true self, your authentic core, it is grounded, it's flexible, and it's deeply resilient. Jung had a pretty blunt way of putting this. Neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. Think about that. Worry is essentially a fake problem that your ego invents so you don't have to face the terrifying void of uncertainty. It is so much easier to obsess over a weird text message than to just sit with the fact that life is fundamentally out of your control. So, how do we break out of this worry trap? First, you have to recognize the worry. Observe it, like a storm passing overhead, rather than identifying as the storm yourself. Then, confront it. Allow yourself to feel the raw fear of abandonment or failure without immediately running away from it. Once you actually stop fighting the emotion, you hit the release phase. The emotion just dissipates, and you free up a massive amount of psychic energy for actual living.
And just to be clear here, letting go is absolutely not laziness. While the ego demands a detailed map and constantly fights the current, the self embraces the river's flow and trusts its intuition. Letting go isn't giving up on life, it's actually a profound awakening to life's natural intelligence and timing. This leads us to our final part, Section 4, your silent comeback.
So what does this comeback actually look like? It's a biological and psychological transformation that happens when you finally release the need to force outcomes. And it happens in phases, mostly completely invisibly. First, the old ego and familiar habits start dissolving. Then the shadow rises, meaning your old fears resurface to finally be seen and cleared out. Next, your inner power restructures. You naturally just start reacting differently to your triggers. Finally, you experience what we call a ceremonial withdrawal. You crave more silence, you naturally step away from drama, and you just stop explaining yourself to everyone. And as this transformation really takes root, you enter into what Jung called synchronicity. This is a meaningful coincidence where the outer world suddenly starts reflecting your new, stable inner frequency. The right opportunities and the right people just start appearing in your life with startling precision. And the best part is, you don't even have to force or chase them. You know, the crazy thing is, you'll know this comeback is happening, but not because of some massive external fireworks display. It's the quiet signs. You react to your triggers calmly. You say no without a single shred of guilt. You choose your own peace over winning a pointless argument. You hold silence as a profound form of self-respect. Your absolute refusal to betray yourself anymore is your true victory. As we start to wrap up this explainer, I really want you to keep this central idea from Jung in mind. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. True magnetism, true transformation, it all comes from bringing the light and the shadow together. It's about fully embracing every messy, beautiful part of exactly who you are. The big takeaway here is simply this: your comeback happens in silence. It isn't some grand future event that you have to sit around and wait for. It is actively unfolding right now, in the very moments you choose to pause, turn inward, and finally trust yourself. I want to leave you with a question to chew on. If tomorrow all your roles, all your titles, and all the expectations placed upon you just vanished, who would you be? Because discovering the answer to that question, that is where your true life begins.